Morning, Glory America, Bonjour, Hi, Canada. Good Friday to all. I hope some of you were listening last night. I broadcast from the Kirby Center of Hillsdale College in the heart of the Beltway, the lantern of the Northeast Coast, as we talked about their amazing charter school program for an hour and a half. We had 13,000 callers listening on the line. That was really amazing, maybe 14,000. Thanks to all of you, and remember, hillsdale.edu. The Hillsdale Dialogue will be along in the third hour. Of course, we're talking Shakespeare today. And we have Doug Lesmerises. We have our regular Friday lineup, and we lighten things up. But I want to hear from you about Jussie Smollett, the biggest headline in America. It's not anywhere near the most important headline, but he was found guilty of lying to police in a hate crime hoax. I read from CNN. Actor Jussie Smollett was found guilty Thursday on 5 of 6 felony counts of disorderly conduct for making a false report to Chicago police. A disorderly conduct charge is a Class 4 felony, punishable by up to 3 years in prison and a $25,000 fine. So Mr. Smollett is facing 15 years in prison. The discretion is with the judge. I'd like to know what you think he ought to get. 1-800-520-1234. I am of the mercy is not yet strained category, but you knew that. I think he should pay restitution to the city of Chicago for the costs. He should do a lot of community service. You know what I'd really like him to do? I'd really like him to work with Angel Tree. I wish this judge would say, here's the deal, pal. You're going to prison fellowship, and you're going to serve the people who are incarcerated where you could be, and you're going to use your celebrity to bring attention to this organization and to Angel Tree. Angel Tree sponsors the Christmas present drive, which is underway right now at HughHewitt.com. At the very top, go over there, HughHewitt.com, and Brandy Beeg just gave us $50 from Florida. Thank you. That's 2 more children of prisoners served. Louisa R., $25. That's a prisoner served. Thank you, Louisa, in New York. William W. in Texas, $250. Thank you. That's 10 kids served. Scott J. in Tennessee, $100. That's 4 children served. And Dale S. in New Mexico, $250. That's 10 kids served. So I don't want revenge against Jussie Smollett. I want him to know that the carnage caused by crime is nothing to fake. It is so devastating on children. I don't think Jussie has children, and I hope he doesn't, given what's been going on with him. But what do you want to see done? Let me play you a couple of clips of. If you want to contribute to Angel Tree, and I would love that, by the way. We have 1.5 million children who have a mother or father in jail, and we're doing great guns on this show. You folks are so generous. Thank you. Listen to Kristen talk a little bit about this, what it means inside the jails.
And just have people believe in them, and for them to be able to be a kid and not suffer for the crime that their parents are in prison for. We actually feel like they're the silent victims of crime because they're labeled through Angel Tree. That's what we're doing, is we're giving them the opportunity to be a kid and to look past their parents' label.
And that matters so much. But I think maybe Jussie serving Angel Tree would be fine. Here is the Dan Webb, the prosecutor of Jussie Smollett after the trial. A number of different clips smashed together here. Cut number 16. I also want you to know, before I go to your calls, real crime is a problem. How much big of a problem? Jamie McBride is the head of the Los Angeles Police Protective League. On CBS Los Angeles last night, he said this, cut number 15.
My message to anybody considering coming to Los Angeles, especially during the holiday season, is don't.
A sobering and somewhat terrifying statement from the LA Police Protective League, the union representing LAPD officers. The message coming as a crime wave continues to slam the city and surrounding areas.
We can't guarantee your safety. It is really, really out of control. I said it to people before. It's like that movie Purge. Instead of 24 hours to commit your crime, these bad people have 365 days to commit whatever they want.
The warnings seem to resonate with residents.
It's pretty scary walking at night.
Sarah Veenstra moved to LA from Wisconsin about 6 months ago. She didn't realize crime and safety would be such major issues.
I genuinely thought it'd be a safe area. It turned out not to be as safe as I thought. I'm definitely carrying something on me every single time I walk out of the house when it's dark out.
For 10 years I would do the nightly news PBS, KCET in L.A. I drive back and forth from Orange County, except for the riots, the 1992 riots. I never felt in danger. If you know where you are in L.A., it is not a place in the 90s where that random crime would happen. Wow. So Jussie Smollett, 30 seconds to each of you. Dan in Pittsburgh. What do you think, Dan?
Complete, reimbursing the city, the full fine, 3 years in prison, and no job at MSNBC.
Well, look, we can't control whoever gets a job where, but you want 3 years,
well, I know,
really?
I'm just being sarcastic, but as a gay man in the gay life since I was 14, and I'm 68, okay, this is just completely unacceptable, and he should get at least 3 years in prison.
So you are a gay man, and so you're upset about faking a hate crime because real ones occur?
No, I do not believe real ones occur. It's very few and far between.
Oh, very interesting. Huh? The special prosecutor said this denigrated real hate crimes.
Well, it may, but as far as I can see, okay, and I'm around your age, people are so afraid, and they walk on eggshells around black people and gays. It has swung in the opposite direction. I don't know any hate crime.
I don't know that I've never seen a hate crime either. I know they happen. I don't think. In fact, there's a great story I would send you over to Beckett Adams at the Washington Examiner. Jussie Smollett is a part of a larger trend of fake hate crimes. We have a fake hate crime wave, but the real ones do occur, and I think the special prosecutor was right. When you fake them, the real ones get lost. Dan, thank you. Brian in Cleveland, Ohio, 1-800-520-1234. Jussie Smollett looking up to 15 years in jail. What do you think?
Hey, good morning. I don't think he should do all of it, but I agree with your last caller. He should probably do something, at least 2-3 years, because like you say in your own words, that which gets rewarded gets repeated, and we're doing this over and over and over. You had Joy Behar, Don Lemon, Rachel Maddow, everybody jump right on board with this, the white supremacy, the whole garbage nonsense of it, and enough is enough. Make an example out of them, and then people are going to start stopping.
But I'm so glad you called, Brian, because I want to say people are mostly mad not at Jussie. They're mad at left-wingers who jump to his defense. And we should not punish him because the media, legacy media, is overwhelmingly left-wing and indifferent to facts. You know, I don't think I've ever discussed this. Thank you for the call, by the way. Generalissimo, have I ever discussed Jussie Smollett on the air? Generalissimo, are you awake? Somebody wake up Dwayne. Dwayne's talking to somebody on the phone, so I can't talk to him. Hey, Dwayne. Hey.
Yeah.
Have I ever talked about Jussie Smollett on the air, to your knowledge?
Not that I know of.
I don't think so, because I don't believe, my view is unless you're in the courtroom, you actually don't know what's happening in a trial.
Unless you see it every day, every minute, you don't know what's going on until the verdict comes out.
So I just think most people are mad at Jussie because of Don Lemon and Joy Behar, and he shouldn't be sentenced because they're often morons. Don't go anywhere, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. We'll be right back on the Hugh Hewitt Show. Oh, do we need Christmas? We need Christmas movies. We need to get to the theater, and we are joined by Sonny Bunch, the official movie critic of the Hugh Hewitt Show, rolling about in airline miles by the billions. He has been doing yeoman's work through the COVID with us. And do we have some good news? Is there a movie to see, Sonny Bunch? Can we go?
Well, if you like musicals, we've got West Side Story from Steven Spielberg hitting theaters this weekend.
Please tell me it's good.
It is. Look, here's the thing. I am not a musical guy. We've talked about this before. I'm not a musical guy, so I'm usually not the person to ask about a movie like this. I will say that it's a very catchy musical. Lots of good songs. This is the classic 1957 Stephen Sondheim, who just recently passed away. Musical brought to the big screen by Steven Spielberg, and as such, look, it's a Steven Spielberg movie, which means that A, It's going to be visually interesting. I again, not a musical guy, me, but I was pretty captivated by the opening. The opening sequence, which is a very nice little bit of visual storytelling, even if it has kind of your standard singing and dancing silliness. It is what it is. And again, it's classic. Lots of great songs. Tonight.
Sharks and Jets. Yes,
again,
Sharks and Jets.
I'm not the guy to talk to about this.
Well, yes, you are, because if you found good things to like about it, then people who like musicals and like being happy in theaters are going to love it. And I think of Nicole Kidman. Have you seen the AMC trailer 100 times yet, where Nicole Kidman says, "Because when the lights go off, it's wonderful in here"?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what this is. Yeah, more than once. Like every time you go to an AMC theater, twice. So what? Okay, I hear you. I'm going probably on Christmas.
Right,
What's next?
So look, all right. Here's what I will say. Again, if you like musicals, this is very much a big, old-fashioned Hollywood musical, right? This is a large production. It's a Steven Spielberg production. So again, it looks very, very good. It is filled with constant movement. It is a classic kind of semi-tragic American Romeo and Juliet story. Ansel Elgort plays Tony, who is of the young Irish gang, the Jets. He falls in love with Maria, who is the sister of the head of the Sharks, which is the local Puerto Rican gang in the projects of the west side of New York City.
Hell's Kitchen, isn't it?
They're two different groups rumble, and it's beautiful, and it's tragic, and it's wonderful, and it's sad, and it's lovely. I will say that I thought Rachel Zegler, who plays Maria in this film, is very, very good. I think she's the best. She's the best thing about it by far. She's just very expressive. Ansel Elgort, who plays Tony, is a little more of a blank. He is not as good of a singer, certainly. And the role was kind of a stiff's role. He's playing a guy who's trying to go straight. He wants to get out of the gang. He fears the violence he can inflict on people. But look, the movie it's a very good musical if you're into that sort of thing. It's a little bit long. It is about 2.5 hours. Everything is a little bit long. Everything feels like it's about 2.5 hours now, including another movie.
Encanto felt like it was 6 hours, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're not in the target age demographic for Encanto,
it might still be going on in my head. But what
5
else?
to 8. Yeah.
Also,
2.5 hours long is Don't Look Up, which is the new satire from Adam McKay about it is a global warming metaphor, a comet hurtling toward the Earth, and Jennifer Lawrence and Leonardo DiCaprio discover it, and they go to the president, who's played by Meryl Streep, and her son Jonah Hill is the chief of staff. They say, no, we're not too interested in this comet headed toward Earth. We have a Supreme Court nomination we need to get confirmed. We've got other things going on. So they go to the media. In this movie is a stand-in essentially for the New York Times and a morning talk show, a network morning talk show. And the New York Times and the network morning talk show not that interested in the end of the world because, as we know, if there's anything we know about the media, that they're not too interested in global warming stories, or in this case, again, the metaphor, the comet hurtling toward Earth. It is, look...
Wait, there's a guy who hates me in Hollywood. What's his name? He's a funny guy. He hates me. Dwayne... Seth Rogen. Is he got anything to do with that? Because that's the only way you could make this less appealing to me.
No Seth Rogen in this.
Okay.
I mean, look, here's the thing: it is occasionally very funny. There's a very funny running gag in this about a general, with the Pentagon who charges the scientists for snacks from the White House break room that are free. And for the rest of the movie, Jennifer Lawrence can't figure out why this happened. Why he must make
Sonny,
6 figures. Why is he charging us?
I went with John Bolton to Turkey and Israel once, and the accounting that followed that was years in the undoing. That is actually a 1-star for me, because everyone who's traveled on the White House planes or the fleet will know what that means. That's very funny. Someone slipped him a tip.
Yeah, so there's some funny stuff in it, and I do like Jonah Hill. I'm not going to lie, he's very good in this. It's the funniest he's been in a film since, I think, Wolf of Wall Street.
Sonny, question for you.
Yeah.
When Jonah played a disturbed young man who lived at home, it's a haunting movie. He was very, very good. Do you recall the name of it? Like Cyrus, something like that? He was on the spectrum. Yeah, and Melissa Tomei was in it, and he's a very good actor. He's a very good actor.
I like Jonah Hill. I'm trying to think of what movie this is, where he is. Was it Maniac? No, that was the Netflix show.
We'll look it up. But I got to ask you if you've watched Wheel of Time yet, because I binge watched 3 episodes yesterday, and I don't know if they have the budget to. It's going to be like Rome. They're going to run out of money.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I've heard that from people. I've not watched it. I've heard that it looks kind of cheap. But also,
they're just trying to compress 22 books or 21 books, and they're moving too fast. But they're going to run out of money, because they're like at 1/2 of one book, and they're into 4 episodes. It's okay. It's pretty good for that budget. It doesn't look cheap. It looks like they're compressing too much too fast.
Yeah, no, I haven't read the books, and I've not seen.
Oh, you're never going to read the books. You don't have enough years left in your life.
I do not. I don't have that sort of time. Time is a luxury when you've got 2 kids and a full-time job, and the idea of working my way through. I tried to read. It's funny. I sat down to reread the Foundation books, because I wanted to watch the Foundation series that's on Apple. And then, as I was reading it, I found out that the TV show has really nothing to do with the books. It's more about the prequels and the Empire. And so I never finished reading them, even though they're very short and pretty easy.
Well, Wheel of Time, Rostoff, that Crystal Liz and I all fell prey to it at one time in our lives, so we're interested in it. And it's fine if you've read the books. Don't do it if you haven't. Anything else, Sonny? We got 2 minutes left. I want to make sure you get through your menu.
If you're living in New York and LA, there's a new indie film out called Red Rocket, which is it's from Sean Baker, who's the guy who made Tangerine and the Florida Project. I don't know if you saw the Florida Project.
No. Oh, I love the Florida Project. Defoe. I love that. I love that movie.
It was a very, very, very touching, very kind of.
Yes, he should have won the best
kind of
actor.
Hard to watch. Movie about a.
And it makes you aware of all those children that you now drive past living in hotels. It does its job. It was a great movie.
And I think that's on Netflix now if you want to see that. But Red Rocket is that director's latest. And it is about a heterosexual male adult film actor who moves back to his small town in Texas because he's kind of flamed out in Los Angeles. I mean, he's just a con man. He's a charismatic.
Oh, I'll go see this.
Worming his way into people's hearts.
But you've just triggered me, Sonny, because one of the best scenes I've ever seen in a movie. See if you recall this. Willem Dafoe is watching over the kids. He's doing his repair job, and the dirty old man scuffles up to the children. Do you remember that scene?
Yeah.
Nothing is said. Nothing is said.
Them out of there.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it was a great movie.
Great movie. It is a great movie. And look, what Sean Baker does as a director is he looks at these communities that are kind of hidden and kind of lost from the normal public eye, and he does it again here. I mean, nobody's making movies about small town Texas and the oil refinery towns and the people who live there. I mean, it's a very, very interesting movie. It's set in 2016. So the 2016 election is kind of a backdrop. It's not really part, but it's not the movie. This is not.
Who's the star?
The star is Simon Rex, who was a one-time MTV VJ, who is he is excellent in this movie. He is a a real revelation. I was not expecting him to be as good as he is, but he's super charismatic, super interesting on screen. I recommend this film a lot. It's definitely, look, it's a hard R movie. There's nudity in it. I don't want anyone to show up and be surprised when there's.
Sorry to warn, but Sonny, is it in either Across the Movie Aisle or The Bulwark Goes to the Movies?
We haven't. We may talk about it on Across the Movie Aisle. I haven't talked about it on Bulwark Goes to Hollywood, but I've got reviews up at the site now. Don't Look Up and Red Rocket, which make kind of an interesting pair.
Well, I'll read them after. I'm going to see Red Rocket, but it's not in D.C.?
I don't think it's in D.C. yet. I think it's still just in New York and L.A. for this weekend, and then it's going to expand next weekend. So,
do you know Alamo Drafthouse has come to D.C.?
I saw that. They had a big opening ceremony with Bill Pullman from Independence Day.
They did not call me. It's unbelievable. I do more for the movies than anybody in broadcast, and they did not call me. You do more. Did you get to go to Alamo?
I got the invite, but since I'm in Dallas now, I wasn't able to make it, unfortunately.
Just not fair. It's not fair.
It really is
the injustices of this season. Sonny Bunch, thank you. Talk to you next week at Sonny Bunch on Twitter. Go and read his reviews after you've seen the movies. Do like I do. You only want to read a review of a movie after you've seen it. But Red Rocket, yes. Don't Look Up, no. West Side Story, yes. That's the summary. Welcome back, America. The interview with Hugh Hewitt today is with Doug Lesmerises. Doug is the host of many great podcasts that I listen to every week. College Football Survivor Podcast, the Orange and Brown Podcast, Buckeye Talk Podcast. He is with Cleveland.com, and he is the author of the book I'm holding in my hand, The Road to Ohio State, which I just tweeted out. It's a perfect Christmas present for two people, football fans and high school athletes who are being recruited. Good morning, Doug. How are you?
Hey, Hugh. Thanks for having me again.
I want to talk about Tom Skladany, oddly enough. I'm going to come back to the podcast in a second, but I read Tom Skladany chapter in The Road to Ohio State, and there was a time, because my brothers were good football players. I was not. I'm the worst athlete in the history of Ohio. And my brothers were good, though. They were all state players. And so we would go to football banquets. And for a period of time, every year, we'd get either Woody, Bo Schembechler, Era Parsegian, or Joe Paterno. They had a route. They divided up, and they would do the high school banquets all over. That's how they recruited. Tom Skladany is of that era, and this is a great story, Doug. Did you sit down with him, or is this done by research into the files?
No, Tom Skladany, believe it or not, owns a printing business about 2 miles from my house.
Oh!
So I went and sat in Tom's office for a good long time, and his entire office is decorated with unbelievable mementos of Woody Hayes and being recruited by Joe Paterno, and just it's like a time capsule, Hugh, of that era of these coaching giants. And if you were a good football player in Ohio or Western Pennsylvania, as you said, that was just part of your life. You got to know those guys.
Oh, they showed up, and when you talk about Bo bringing Skladany into the big house and maybe suggesting to him, maybe you're not good enough to play here, and how that put the hook in, and then how he had to get Woody Hayes to recruit a punter. He's the first Woody Hayes punter scholarship, right?
Yes, the first time. Woody, before that, you'd kind of find a punter on campus, a walk-on somewhere, but the game was changing a little bit. And, yeah, it's funny how these guys motivated these high school recruits, that Bo's strategy was almost to challenge somebody and say, yeah, as you said, I don't think you're good enough. Well, if you want to come, I guess you can try. And then Tom wound up in a situation where a player at his high school had previously sort of indicated he would go to Ohio State, and then he flipped to Michigan, and Woody said, I'm never recruiting anybody from that high school again. And then the assistant coaches had to talk him into taking Tom Skladany.
Well, now that's why I just recommended to parents of high school athletes that they read The Road to Ohio State. Because recruiting wars have gotten even more vigorous and more specialized, and you have the modern ones as well as the old ones. In fact, Doug, I'm curious, have you thought about going into the name, image, and likeness business? Because you know what these kids are worth now, and you know what happened to Ohio State this week. You talked about it on Buckeye Talk.
Yeah, no, I have not considered it. I'm still cautious of the name, image, and likeness space. It's interesting because it's changing, Hugh. I think it's good opportunities for these players to be able to make money off their name, image, and likeness, but I'm still not sure how the whole thing works. There's a very small handful of people making a lot of money, and then a decent number of people making small amounts of money, but it is evolving. It's not for me, though. I'll just write stories about it.
Well, I've enjoyed the podcast, and now we go to the Punter podcast. College Football Survivor podcast with Shahan is absolutely must listening, but Orange and Brown podcast this week. The Browns don't have a punter, Doug. They don't have a punter. What do we do?
Go for it on fourth down, Hugh. If you want to be aggressive, force yourself to be aggressive. Your punter's not available. They'll sign a veteran. These punters, they know how to do it. So they'll sign somebody who's waiting in the wings. But it is continuing this NFL season. You know, COVID is having an effect. That it's not even necessarily about how sick the guys are getting. It's just that they have exposure and they're out, and it's hitting the Browns a little bit this week.
It's crazy. Now, you do 11 podcasts a week, which is kind of a record, and I think I probably listened to 7 of 11 of them during the week. You got a new guy this week. Poor Scott. Scott is your Jimmy Smothers, right? You're Tommy Smothers, and he's Jimmy Smothers. And Lance wanders into the middle of this thing. How did he do after the meteor hit him, after the first podcast?
I try to explain to people that when they come on a podcast with me, I may not know what I'm talking about, but I'm probably going to yell at them anyway. So yeah. Lance Riseland, who joined us, is an actual high school football coach, a football family in Northeast Ohio, just one of those typical football families that lives and breathes the game. His dad was a coach for 45 years. So Lance did a great job, and he understands breaking down the game from a coach's perspective. So when Kevin Stefanski, the Browns coach, had a week off this week to say, hey, we have to reevaluate our offense, Lance Riseland has been in that situation of trying to figure out what to do next. So it's great having a coach on the show who can bring that perspective.
Now, I have one suggestion, which is I'm not smart enough to understand Lance half the time. I mean, he's using all sorts of terms that it's a different language to me. And I was listening to it, and you would stop him and translate. Just tell him to slow down and have fun because he's very good. He knows what he's doing, obviously. So here's the deal, Doug, at the end of the year. 11 podcasts a week. You can't keep this up. I do 5 shows a week. I know that. What changes in the off season for you? What do you slow down? I mean, what goes over the side?
We're having that conversation right now, Hugh. I'm not sure because I will tell you, Hugh, and you understand this business as well as anybody, sometimes when you're doing something like A-plus Alabama game, which we saw against Georgia, but Alabama hasn't played its A-plus game all year. So that's going to be the Heisman Trophy winner, Bryce Young, against a really good veteran quarterback for Cincinnati and Desmond Ridder. But I think the Georgia-Michigan game has a chance to be a classic to you.
I'm looking forward to them both.
Physical run offense.
Yeah. Now, if you had another podcast, I would add coaches and writers because I would love to hear you talk to these coaches, and I would especially love to hear you talk to Luke Fickell about not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere, is he?
He probably is not going anywhere. He's very happy there. Cincinnati is going to move to the Big 12. He made the playoff with where he is. I think he would have been interested in Notre Dame possibly, but the interesting part about that is Notre Dame just hired Marcus Freeman, who played for Luke Fickell at Ohio State, and Luke Fickell and Marcus Freeman are best friends. And
that
now
is
Marcus
wild.
Freeman got that Notre Dame job, so I think Luke Fickell is incredibly successful. I think he's very happy. He is not looking to move, and he would only go to a few select places, and one of them just got taken by his buddy. So I don't think Luke Fickell's going anywhere.
Would Luke Fickell and Marcus Freeman talk to each other candidly about recruits? I mean, best friends talk about everything. I mean, would they actually, because if they're that close, will they actually talk about the recruits and divide them up and conquer them sort of thing?
You know, I mean, a lot of these guys, I'll say they have the personal relationships, and sometimes you don't talk business. But I do think sometimes when you're recruiting kids, you can be realistic sometimes, You want the kid, right? You found a great recruit. You want him. But if you feel like you're not going to get him, maybe something's happening, you'd rather your best friend get him than somebody else. So I do think that happens sometimes, and that's a formidable pairing for sure.
Oh, Tony Napoletto, who's a legendary coach in the Warren Niles area, used to say that if Woody wasn't going to get a kid, he'd send him to Parsegian and Joe Paterno. He did not want them to go to Michigan. And I think I heard that story a dozen times. You probably heard it 100 times. So as we close out the road to Ohio State, you know now a lot about recruiting. What should a high school athlete do if they're good in any sport at any level when they're being recruited? After you wrote the book, The Road to Ohio State, you know recruiting, Doug, and I'm selling the book hard because I think it's good for kids to know what's going to happen to them. What should they know?
I think one of the main things, Hugh, and this is sort of from book research, but just also doing this for 17 years, is if you can get an offer and lock it in, take it. And then you can continue your recruitment. And sometimes we have criticisms for kids who change their minds and decommit and flip. But if you get that school, and it's not binding, but it's almost binding because the reputation of the school is at stake, if you have an offer, lock in an offer. And that way, if you get injured or something happens, you have that already in hand. And then keep looking. And remember, the schools do this 100 times a year. You get one life, one career, one opportunity. You have to be loyal to yourself first because in the end, the school is going to be loyal to itself as well. Look out for number one as a high school athlete because if you don't look out for yourself, nobody else is going to look out for you.
Okay, corollary question. You can always trust mom and dad, but a lot of kids don't have mom and dad. They got a lot of shady folks around them. How do you know who to trust if you're a high school teenager without a mom and dad who's game to the game?
Really difficult. I think your high school coach is the place to lean, especially if it's a high school coach who has gone through it at any other point in the process. Sometimes those other outside people, we know too. I mean, that there are things that happen with money being exchanged at times in recruiting. I always think the high school people, these colleges, they talk to your principal, they talk to your guidance counselor. The people in your school, if your family isn't there, they're the people to turn to next.
Good advice. Doug Lesmerises, the book is The Road to Ohio State. The podcasts are the Orange and Brown Podcast, Buckeye Talk, and College Football Survivor Podcast. Thank you, Doug. Talk to you next week. Don't go anywhere, America. Joined now by the poet laureate of the Hugh Hewitt Show, Tarzana Joe. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Hugh, and Merry, what month is this?
Yes, indeed. Merry December.
Have 12 months really passed, my friends? Another year gone by? Will Santa and his reindeer soon be sailing through the sky? It seems the kids a week ago for Easter eggs were hunting, and then that I, in hot July, was hanging out the bunting. I know that summers are too short and fall is always fleeting, but wasn't it just yesterday we all went trick-or-treating? Another year has come and gone and left us in the lurch. It's smelling more and more like pine at Target and at church. I made a list of things to do in 2021, and most of them, I must confess, I haven't yet begun. I still haven't cards I need to send to friends I made this past year. That should make up for all the cards I didn't send out last year. There's lots of poems I need to write. My client said, please do them. Well, everyone can rest assured I'll soon be getting to them. I still have gifts I need to wrap and gifts I need to buy. To tell you I was ready, friends, would be to tell a lie. So can't we take a moment now and pray by all that's holy that day by day the next 2 weeks will pass a bit more slowly. That's Christmas Chill by Tarzana Joe.
Not a chance, Joe. Not a chance.
Now's the perfect time, though, to remind listeners struggling with last-minute gifts that It Only Hurts When I Rhyme and The Second Best of Tarzana Joe are perfect stocking stuffers and available on Amazon.com.
Oh, let's go back over those titles, Joe. You ran through them. You're plugging your 2 books of verse.
Yes. And next week I may give the speech I would have given had those books won the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry. But they are called It Only Hurts When I Rhyme and The Second Best of Tarzana Joe. Just
how do they
search?
What do they Google? What do they search for on Amazon?
Just Tarzana Joe, and there they are.
Tarzana Joe and Amazon. Google works its magic. Joe, are you done taking commissions for the year? Or are you still working around the clock like Santa's elves?
I never say no. And last week, and I keep saying this to you, it's been the biggest week of the year. Last week was the biggest week of the year. Lots of last-minute gift givers, you know.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I hope you don't run out of rhyme. That would be a terrible time.
That's true. But I will never do that.
To contact Joe, go to TarzanaJoe at Reagan.com, send him an email, or go visit TarzanaJoe.com and all of his verse there, including this week's. I'll talk to you next week, Joe, and it will be here before you know it.
Merry Christmas, you.
And to you, sir. Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. The job of a campaign strategist is to put his or her candidate in a position to get their message communicated to the electorate that needs to hear it. And Kellyanne Conway is one of the best. Of course, she was President Donald Trump's senior strategist in 2016 and 2020. And her candidate in the Ohio Senate race in 2022 is Bernie Moreno. You've heard Bernie on the show before, businessman extraordinaire, very charismatic on the radio. They both joined me, and boy, did they know how to hit the home spot with me, because they're in Warren, Ohio, heart of the Western Reserve and my hometown. Good morning to you both, Kellyanne and Bernie. Kellyanne, it's great to talk to you again. Merry Christmas to you and yours.
Good morning, Hugh Hewitt. Merry Christmas to you. Happy, healthy 2022 to all. A quick correction. I was Donald Trump's campaign manager, obviously, in 2016. I'm working with Bernie Moreno for 2022, but I was not involved in the 2020 campaign.
Oh!
Great privilege. I disagree with a lot of the strategies. I had a great privilege of working in the White House on behalf of this beautiful country and its unbelievably amazing people for 4 years. And we'll never forget it. Now, we're in Warren looking for you, Hugh. We wish that you, the hometown boy, were here. We have a great crowd here. Everybody's listening into this live show. And I'll tell you why I'm working with Bernie Moreno. It's very simple. He's a job creator. He comes pre-verified. I know a thing or two about how attractive to the electorate, and particularly the forgotten man, forgotten woman, and forgotten child, it is to have a job creator, somebody for whom the political motivators do not really work. Money, fame, power. Folks like Bernie, like Trump, they give that up. Their family sacrificed thusly for them to run for office. But as a job creator, he employed over 1,000 Ohioans and over 100 people in other states. He understands why supply chains should not be interrupted. He understands that we shouldn't be seeing these rising prices at the gas pump and in our grocery carts. And he just laid down an unprecedented, concentrated $4 million TV ad campaign. It really is, what he's trying to do is go meet every voter, but he knows that in addition you have to go on the air and on the ground. I see him out on the ground all the time. Now here in Warren, this beautiful city of your hometown is filled with winners. But we are sick and tired in the Moreno campaign, sick and tired of Warren losing its population to other cities, losing its people to opioids and the poly-drug crisis, Hugh, losing jobs to outsourcing, losing our wealth and our pride to China, to Mexico. So, Warren is losing because of bipartisan failureship of leadership. And
Kellyanne, I told Bernie when he got into this that I would ask him what's in it for Warren, and he answered that, Bernie, you did at the first debate that I moderated. And I don't know whether you're at the hot dog shop or Sunrise Pizza. I don't know if you're at John F. Kennedy High School or Warren Harding, or I don't know where you are, but wherever you are, jobs is what matters to Warren.
No, absolutely. We're at the Trumbull County headquarters, where there's a lot of signs for a guy named Brandon there.
So Bernie, let's go back to that. What's in it for Warren? You know that Lordstown shuttered. You know that Lordstown Motors has its trouble. You tried to help. Youngstown is being led by Jim Tressel. What's in it for Warren if you win?
Well, what we got to do is we have to disentangle our relationship with China, which means we have to bring critical industries back to America. One of those is going to be semiconductor chips. To build those factories, you need water, you need land, and you need energy. All three of those things we have in spades here in the Valley, and this is what we should be focused on, is building these amazing semiconductor plants here in America. It's not only an employment issue, it's a national security issue. Because as you know, Hugh, we talked about this at the forum that you moderated, it's just a matter of time before China blockades or takes total control over Taiwan, and that's about 90% of the world's semiconductor chips. So that's the existential threat that we face economically, and Warren can benefit dramatically from getting
You're right.
Early.
Warren has got everything it needs for a semiconductor, and I'm sure the Assembly would do whatever it took to get it there. Let's talk about the backpack bill, because John F. Kennedy High School, my alma mater, could actually use the backpack bill in Columbus. Are you behind that, Bernie?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's obviously a state issue. My role as senator is to get rid of education issues from the federal level, move it to state and local communities. But as a dad of 4 kids, the reality is parents should be able to choose where they send their kids to school, and especially those in the vulnerable populations who are imprisoned in these horrible schools.
Kellyanne, I spoke to the former president Wednesday. I asked him about this race, and he said he would be endorsing in the Ohio Senate race, which surprised me because, You know, when Rick Grinnell called me up and told me that Bernie Moreno, you got to get to know, and then Bernie hired you, I thought, well, that's going to be something. And then, of course, Josh Mandel is friendly with the president. J.D. Vance is friendly with the president. Everybody's friendly with the president. What do you think is going to happen there in that category?
Well, listen, I was by Donald Trump's side for years, and I know who was and wasn't helpful. So let me say that as politely as I can. And we had many people across this country just helping us at the White House because we were running at Trump speed. Hugh, you know, the volume and velocity of just trying to get things done, starting from the beginning. What did I promise I'd do? That's what I'm going to do. And he delivered. You know, he delivered. We all know the great accomplishments of the Trump presidency. I think the president will, he is entering these races or holding back, depending on how he feels about different candidates and the rhythms of the race. But he is watching everybody's ads. He is meeting with candidates regularly. I'm in very frequent contact with him, visit him frequently, talk to him regularly, talk to him this week actually. And that would have a huge impact, obviously, here in Ohio. And I think what's important, Donald Trump is conveying to candidates also, I try to tell them, but it's very important when he makes clear to candidates, you have to go connect with the voters. Whether you get my endorsement or not, this is on your shoulders to do what Donald Trump did. Raise the money, connect with the people, tell them what your vision is for them. You know, elections have to be about the people. And people and folks who put people over power are successful. But I think it's very telling that he knows a number of these candidates very, very well.
Very well.
And has not endorsed them, Hugh. I think some of these people, well, I know as a fact, they were banking on his endorsement, telling their donors and their friends and their supporters we're getting his endorsement, which is, you know, the intersection of arrogance and ignorance. You've got to earn it from President Trump, but you really have to earn it from the people. That's the most important endorsement. Now, Hugh, you are a favorite son of Warren, Ohio, and I know you went to school with Tim Ryan, but let me tell you something. Can Tim Ryan, the talk about recidivist political candidates, can Tim Ryan, congressman in 2 seats, ran for Speaker of the House, then thought he would export a pretty unremarkable...
Wait, Kellyanne, wait. You know my rules. My friends, you will never hear a negative word about Kellyanne Conway on this show because you're my friend. I keep my friends free of barbs. So let's focus on Bernie.
He wants to be the senator, though, but he wants to be United States Senator. I'm not barbing him. I'm making something clear about his record. Do you think, or has he ever spoken about your shared hometown of Warren, Ohio, the way Bernie Moreno just did? Is he able to articulate a vision about semiconductors, about bringing more jobs to his hometown, the way you just heard? And if he has, I want to hear it. I'd love to see the two of them on a debate stage.
I was talking with Brett Baer this week. Ted Cruz, by the way, came up with the Cruz Doctrine, which is only people who intend to vote in Republican primaries should moderate Republican debates. But I've been talking with Brett Baer about debates. I would love to get Bernie and the rest of the gang back together again to debate. And then if Bernie is the nominee, to moderate that debate, because it would be interesting. Bernie, Kellyanne brought up something that's very important. My brother lives in Warren, and my nephews live close. My 3 beloved nephews, my nieces left. But I have family right there. And Kellyanne mentioned the opioid. And I'm one of those people like Rob Portman who stands up and says, opioids have ravaged Ohio. They have ravaged Warren. It's lethal. It's deadly. That is a senatorial issue. Rob Portman has done a lot about it. What would you do about it?
Well, we have to take control of our border. That's where these drugs are coming in from. You remember on your debate, I talked about sealing the border of the U.S. military. We have to declare the Mexican drug cartels foreign terrorist organizations, which will allow us to wipe them off the face of the earth. We can't allow our largest trading partner in a country that has 1,500 plus miles of border with us to turn into a narco state. I know what that was like in Colombia and the devastating impacts of that. So it starts with sealing our border. It also then goes to providing people hope and opportunity, which comes from a good paying job, restructuring a family unit and rebuilding families and doing those things. You know, the reality is a guy like Tim Ryan was hired by the people 20 years ago to help their community. And in 20 years, he's done nothing. I don't understand that in politics because in the business world, you're not given 20 years to fail. You're not even given 20 months to fail. And that's how I look at this thing.
Is this interesting. And I'll tell you why this is interesting. You two have pivoted to the general. You're talking like you've got this in the bag. And so, Kellyanne, I think President Trump's endorsement will be dispositive in this race. I really do. Do you know something we don't know about the president's endorsement?
I don't. I would never. I said it from the beginning, and he really appreciated this comment, and everybody should say it, which is that his endorsement, President Trump's endorsement, is his and his alone to give or to withhold, and I would never dangle it or promise it to any candidate. I know others do that, and they shouldn't do that. But I really appreciate the fact that the president, he is receiving these candidates. He's paying attention to these races. He wants to make sure the America First agenda is protected and advanced. And Hugh, as somebody who speaks with him regularly, I know you talked to him just this week. He's like every other American right now, or most of them. He is very concerned about the direction of this nation. You know, less time than it takes to have a baby, Biden, Harris, and the Democrats have really unraveled so many of the great accomplishments. Some of it just seems out of spite, not even ideological differences. I pray for this country every day. I want them to succeed. I love America and her people. And we want the country to succeed. And let me just say something about bipartisanship. The greatest bipartisan accomplishment of the Trump-Pence administration, in my view, was the drug bill that he signed into law October of 2018. Just unprecedented investment, $6 billion investment in treatment, recovery, interdiction law.
It was big. It's huge. It's huge. It's huge. I got to ask you one last question, Kellyanne, before we run out of question. As a strategist, I've told people that Bernie has sparkle. Sorry, Bernie, if you don't like that word. But he's a legal immigrant, and I don't know if that's an advantage or a disadvantage from a strategist's point of view. Just tell me what you think, because I think it's an advantage, but I don't know.
It's a huge advantage. I'll let Bernie speak, but, you know, Next Friday is the 50th anniversary of the Moreno family coming to America from Colombia. Bernie Moreno's mother, at a very young age, packed up her 7 children, of which Bernie is the youngest, and came to the country that is the most generous to legal immigrants. 34 million people, including the Moreno family, have immigrated here legally. I think it's a huge bonus, because if he were a Democrat, Bernie would say, I'm a legal immigrant, and just talk about that, I'll leave it at that. But Bernie is explaining how legal immigration has made this country so great, and why illegal immigration, just border chaos. Talk about chaos at the border. We have people and drugs coming in, and they're doing nothing about it. I think it's a huge advantage. It's a huge advantage to show how we all have the same right to achieve the American dream. His has come through a number of different ways. He's been married to his college sweetheart for 32 years, built a huge business, and employed Ohio.
Oh, I know, but I got to give the last minute to Bernie. Bernie, you have hired maybe America's preeminent strategist. And so she's got you in Warren. Congratulations on that. What's the closing message for this interview?
Well, I think you laid it out pretty well in your op-ed after the forum, which is there's 3 types of candidates. There's the insiders, the celebrities, and the outsiders. I think that this race boils down to that. I think people are sick of insiders. They're tired of the stunts from the celebrities. They want somebody who's an outsider who's actually going to D.C. to serve the public, not themselves.
What an interesting interview, you two. Kellyanne Conway, Bernie Moreno. Keep going back to Warren. Don't do a one and done. Go there. Go over to John F. Kennedy High School today, Bernie, and see what it means to be a parochial school in the heart of Warren, Ohio. Thank you, my friends. Boy, that Kellyanne Conway is so smart. Taking Bernie Moreno to Warren, Ohio. I'm not going to turn down that interview. Of course I'm going to put him on from Warren, Ohio.